りおしまい。
Yeah, I got it pulled up here.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Get the Mic, the only show where your host on the left, Owl,
your host on the right, Brock,
dissect fiction for its mythological significance. And today we're talking about Dragon Ball, as usual. And it's the first real episode of the 2013 Kaiju Budokai saga, because this is our first after the time lapse, which is a big one. It's called Changes. So sit tight, grab some coffee or tea, whatever it is you like to drink, and we're gonna dissect this one pretty good. Before we get started, sorry, go ahead, Brock.
I said you want a snack for this one. It's gonna be a doozy. The alternate title for this episode is The Reunion Before the Storm, which I think is actually more apt than Changes.
Really? We'll talk about it in just a second. I just I kind of like the vagary of Changes, but
I do. Yeah, I like simplicity, but the storm matters.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a sec. Before we do get into it, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. I think, let me do that once. I'll do that in a minute. I'm going to update the Discord link here and make it permanent because I learned how to do that. I'm such a boomer that I just learned how to do that. So I'm going to make it permanent so that we don't have to change it every time. But if you like what you hear, please give us a like and subscribe. We're actually 4 away from 100 subscribers. So please, if you like what you hear, give us a subscribe. We usually upload. It looks like we've been pretty consistently, at least once a month, sometimes more. And we hope to continue to do that going forward as we approach Dragon Ball Z. Anything else you want to add, Brock?
No, I mean, just a little housekeeping. I'm very excited for this episode. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. This one is a long time coming, and as we get into this episode, it's going to be a lot of us really digging into all of the themes of Dragon Ball. So it's about to get heavy.
Great. I think with that, we can go ahead and get started. So first, before we even do anything, I guess we can talk about the title. And the reason I like Changes is because Reunion Before the Storm, it doesn't include the storm, but it doesn't include the maturity of a lot of the characters involved. And Changes, we get some intonation of that as well as how things are going to change going forward. So I think it both starts the arc and then kind of foreshadows the end of the arc as well. How the status quo is going to change forever.
Yeah, I think that Changes is apt. I don't think it's a bad title by any means.
It's not like some of them.
Yeah, some of them, they're just sort of, "We need a title for this. What happened?" Especially the last few that we talked about, right?
Mhm.
It's kinda relevant if you're listening to these episodes back to back. This is a break from that. So the episode being 3 years later and it addressing what is different now that 3 years have passed is very important. The reunion before the storm is a little bit more descriptive of what's going on in the episode. And as we delve into what's happening and what the episode's about, it'll become more clear. But I like both, and I think that Changes, well, they say brevity is the soul of wit. I think that Changes, uh, ultimately, I think is better. But I do like the reunion before the storm.
Fair enough. Yeah. I just I was curious as to why you said that because I also think Changes is slightly better. I don't think like the other ones like really worse.
I like
The
reunion before the storm, but I think Changes is better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the problem with it is Reunion. You can read into it more and say like it doesn't imply some degree of separation, but Changes puts an exclamation point on that, and that's kind of the point of the episode too. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, so that's the title. Let's go ahead and get started into this first scene. So basically, as we see the narrator say, 3 years have passed since Goku defeated Piccolo Daimyo, and the scene opens at the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament grounds, and it's raining a lot. Um, Everyone's trying to sign up, and Master Roshi and Lance are shown waiting for the other fighters to arrive. They look around and check different cars and have Poir fly around, I think, and stuff. And none of them have shown up yet. Oh no, Poir's not there yet. And so then they continue waiting. Roshi appears concerned and glances at his watch. Let's go to that part. I wanted just to point this out here in a second. And he worries that everyone's going to miss the deadline. So we can go ahead and stop there. I already have some things to say.
Yeah.
So first thing is the rain. So we haven't seen rain. We've only seen rain a few times in Dragon Ball. I think.
Rain, yeah, I think rain has shown up in times of uncertainty, in times of change. I
In
think we saw
despair, it
rain.
rains when Goku nearly dies to King Piccolo the first time.
It also rains when Goku's at the top of Korin Tower when he doesn't know
Yes.
how to overcome his first challenge,
Oh
right?
yes, that's definitely a good
Um,
instantiation.
and symbolically speaking about rain, the rain is dual natured in the sense that it's a portent of a storm, let's say, but it's also the thing that gives nourishment to the earth. And water representing wisdom and depth, as we've talked about it throughout the entire show, it's sort of the portent of the wisdom that comes through the struggle, and ultimately what is reviving about struggle, so to speak.
Right, and
And
I
so we
think
kind of see
it's
that here. There's a setup here where it's like it's almost ominous, right?
right. It's the waters of rejuvenation that allow someone to come back into the fold, right? Which is last time we saw Goku with everyone. What did we see? He was completely broken, and so now we're gonna have an instance, and that's the last time we see him with everyone. Like we have to kind of take what we've seen
That is
as the
Yeah.
viewer away from it for a second to kind of see how it fits in with everything else.
Yeah, to kind of recap, go ahead and describe what happened with the rain last time we saw Goku, or last time these characters saw Goku, really.
Last time, wait, last
So
time
what
the
had happened, because you said that Goku was broken, right? And what
yeah.
the way that it was shown in the show was that Goku's essentially defeated, and then the rain starts pouring on his dead body, as far as they know, right?
Oh, yes, I see, I see. Yes, for some of them, because, like Tien obviously and
Yeah.
Yamcha and them saw Goku defeat King Piccolo and all that, which is what I was referring to. But right,
Well, I
that
guess
it
by they, I should say the world, right?
right,
Because
the
Goku
world.
has ascended, and this is about him returning.
That's true. I also want to mention did they know it was Goku, right? Someone told them it was Goku whenever he was fighting King Piccolo, or they never knew his name.
They the world, I think.
They wanted to thank him, but they couldn't because he was already gone.
Yeah, I think that there was some intonation of it. One part of it that's really important, we'll get into with Krillin a little bit later in this episode, but there, I definitely think that there's a connection, now that you mention it, between Goku's initial defeat by Piccolo and then the rain coming in on his body versus what we're about to see with him returning, and his relationship to the rain, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean that is for sure the last that we've seen Roshi and Krillin have seen of Goku, and there's definitely that element of it. But I mean, even still, Tien's the only one that saw what happened actually. Right? Everyone else gets there too late.
Right.
And
And that's going
so
to be important for the very end of this episode as well.
yeah, exactly. Okay. So the other thing, what else? What else are we looking at here? One thing I just want to mention real quick, which is I don't know why this is in the show, but in the dub, the monk that's signing up the fighters, he goes, Catman, is that spelled with two T's or one or something like that? And then you look at the guy signing up and he is not a cat at all. And in the sub, like it's not mentioned that he's a cat fighter or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
just like
I didn't rewatch it in the dub. I only watched the sub.
I watched
That's funny.
both just to see if there were any quirks with it, and that was just one that happens right here in the beginning that I wanted to mention before we move on. The other thing is Roshi's instantiation as not like the arbiter of time, but um, his not obsession. I don't want to say obsession with punctuality, but he's kind of instantiated here as being a creature within the proper time, right? And
Yeah, time is a big theme of this episode too. The worry of, are they going to be on time? He's watching his watch from the very beginning.
right, and don't tell me they've forgotten about today of all days. So we see that with Roshi is still acting the proper way and giving proper reverence to the time that is allotted, which is appropriate. And we're going to see something, a big difference between, let's say, the last tournament here in a second. The other thing I want to mention, last thing I want to mention is Launch is blue haired and she's with Roshi and they're just chilling. Like she's
Hmm.
still with Roshi and they still have the dynamic, which we're gonna see a lot of the actual like good parts of Mommy Launch in this episode, which I like a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also have that in my notes here, that it's Blanche. We have blue launch, not blonde launch.
Yeah.
Um,
Launch.
and I guess I can't call her Blanche because both are Blanche. But the we have the uh we've talked so much about it that I don't want to belabor it, but the idea of, we've seen this in other scenes where Blonde Launch is also well mannered and is not acting out. There's sort of a balance here that we've established, and having Blue Launch present, hanging out with Master Roshi, there's almost an equilibrium here where we're waiting for uh, a feminine element to show up, or waiting for something to change. It's I say equilibrium in the sense that everything is sort of settled in the world for the past 3 years, and now it's time for changes. And so blonde launch is more representative of turmoil and chaos, whereas blue launch is more about stability, right?
Well, it also shows the order that Roshi was able to construct when like Krillin and them weren't like staying with him, right? Um
Yeah, I mean, before launch arrived, it was different. This shows a difference in a progression of Roshi's character,
right, that's what I was getting at, yeah.
that
And he
I
doesn't
just want to say that he's operating here as a duality instead of just being a hermit.
he
He's not
also
just a hermit now.
well, yeah, he's not just a hermit now. He's the instantiation of the spiritual father, master as such, right? Um and so he is integrated and he's wearing a suit that shows he's integrated, right? He's not wearing his turtle shell. And so that integration has borne fruit in his students, and therefore it's created a harmonious life in his own world, and he's able to have the company of Launch, whereas before the boys, right, he was just alone. But
Yeah,
we can move on.
yeah,
Also, nice watch, Roshi. Gold. Good choice. So, there. Oh, here's the first part of it. So, Roshi says, I hope they didn't forget today of all days or whatever. And Blue Launch, which of course is going to be that positive representation of the feminine, is going to say, of course they wouldn't, and is going to like believe in them, right? Even if they're not here to hear it.
yep.
Oh no. I'm gonna have to restart. It did that thing. Oh wow. I didn't even realize that. So actually the very first shot of the episode is Roshi and Launch. Right there. Interesting. All right, so here we go. Don't tell me they've forgotten today of all days. Of course they wouldn't. 3 years have gone by, and Oolong and Poir are the first to arrive. They greet Roshi and Launch, and then Bulma also arrives. And she has a new look. Her style is noticeably changed. Her hair is different. She's wearing lipstick, etc., which we can compare in a minute with our other feminine character here. And we'll just stop it right there. I mean, there's already things to talk about basically. Which is why we
Yeah,
said
no,
grab a snack, grab a tea, because
yeah, this is going to be a lot. So
let's back up to Poir and Oolong real quick.
sure.
So they roll up, and interesting that they're together as well, right? It shows that there is and has been this like harmony in, because they also were like against each other, right? They, when we first meet them, um and we don't get a lot of like interpersonal character drama in Dragon Ball, which I think is a good thing. But we do see the evolution of characters' relationships regardless of having that drama to like fulfill it, like having a deep conversation with Oolong and Poir, resolving their differences. We actually just see here that because of Goku's actions setting things right in the world, it's created harmony amongst everyone, right? It's propagated that harmony among the universe. And so now Oolong and Poir can chill out together as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Recall, I want to make a I guess a statement about this episode overall, that it's going to retread a little bit of old ground and cement that Goku has been the resolution of conflict in the past. So this is one example of that. in the sense that in season one, how did season one end? Well, it essentially ended with Yamcha and Bulma seeing each other and sort of a unity between the two of the masculine and the feminine potential. And that we see here
Well, also let's
that
say that the restoration of feminine modesty is one that propagates harmony amongst the sexes.
exactly, yeah. And so we see them come out as a representation of that first, and then Bulma comes out. And in the sub, Roshi says explicitly that Bulma has become even more feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see that she's wearing earrings, she's wearing lipstick, she has these adornments of femininity on herself that represent the same thing, for instance, that Roshi's suit that you mentioned is representing, right? There's a representation to the world that the characters are bringing to this stage here to show that the stakes also of what they're going into with this episode and with the tournament are social. They're of the world, right? This is the final step, essentially. This is the way that we're going to step through time, let's say, because culture is a representation of ideas across time and how you represent them to other people. That Bulma is now aware of those things and she's actually representing herself in a feminine way and has that. The first season was about her reclaiming that as a concept, but this is the fulfillment of that, so to speak. So if the first season we see that the wish is about, Bulma's panties, this is the finalization of that as a theme. And so Bulma gets out of the car and she doesn't even go to Roshi. She goes straight to launch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's a woman now.
True.
And she has actually fulfilled her role in this whole cosmic picture that we've been painting this whole season. And so we see like a final, it worked, so to speak. I don't want to say it worked, but it's like Bulma has succeeded in becoming who she was supposed to be. And as such, there's a harmony between Oolong and Puar.
Yes. And that was facilitated by what we've seen in the last arc, right? I think that's what you were getting at, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
we talked about it a little bit towards the end of the last arc with the few scenes we did get back at Kame House, but this is
Oh
to show
yeah,
that
I remember that. Yeah.
we didn't lose that it actually, like you were saying, there's an equilibrium to it.
And we
And we
didn't
see
have
it
to
through the
see
action.
like a deep conversation between her and Yamcha or anything like
Mhm.
that. It's like this is just what had propagated from what we had seen last as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then also what happens is Bulma gets out of the cab. Roshi is smitten. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you become even more feminine," and he's
Let me rewind
admiring
it to
her.
that.
And then he tries to cop a feel, and of course, Bulma actually easily fends him off without really any response
This-
from Blue Launch. Blue Launch doesn't have to defend her now, right?
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't have to become Blonde Launch. She's not really part of that because Bulma's complete now.
And that is one thing too, is that like the protective mommy figure, right, needs necessarily to be phased out. Sorry, Blonde Launch. But
Well,
if you
remember
don't
that.
do that, right, then there's bad repercussions. Go ahead.
Well, that's the setup of the relationship between Roshi and Bulma. Is that
Yeah, of
he
course.
asks her to see her modesty, and she reveals to him she does not have it. And then he enlightens her to the fact that she doesn't have it and gives her a Dragon Ball. Now, after 3 years, there's a reuniting here, and it's not necessarily that it's been a whole 3 years that he hasn't seen Bulma, but it's enough time that he's shocked by her womanhood that now when he tries to do the same thing where he's like, okay, show me your modesty, she easily just bats him away. So this is to show
Yeah,
that
this is
change.
Bulma's moment where she like no sells the villain's like mastered hit or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I want to also point out that in this animation, and this is another point to our overall thesis about maybe not thesis, but one of our overall points to Toriyama's creative method is that even though this is a gag shot that's on the screen right now, he's looking over his glasses to what Bulma actually is, right? Like the glasses no longer offer him the insight that he needs because Bulma is fulfilled in a way that is not duplicitous, right? And so to actually see her, he needs to interact with her in that way. And so he can't use his glasses. He looks beyond his glasses. And it's just an example of a humorous shot that is actually making a statement.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that almost anything in this episode is not in service of what we're talking about. I mean, it is beat by beat, and the further we get into this episode,
We're 2
the more
minutes in. We are
yeah,
2 minutes into this
yeah,
episode.
no, I mean, that's why I said get a snack, because everything that happens in this episode is actually a microcosm for the steps we've
What's
taken
happened
to get to
before, and
yeah.
it's also going to foreshadow what happens during this very arc.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Um, but I think we can move forward in the story from that point, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that specifically that there was no necessity for Launch to do anything.
Yes.
There's a small bit here where as they reunite, Roshi makes a joke to Oolong about
Oh
have you
yeah,
been out
perfect.
stealing panties?
Yes. Okay, I was going to
And
talk about that.
Oolong is just like, oh wow, he's embarrassed by it, and he's like, you never change, and Blue Launch blushes at that, and it's sort of like Roshi is showing his ass a little bit when he makes that joke because he doesn't understand that Bulma is actually integrated,
Mm-hmm.
and that Oolong doesn't do that anymore because he's been integrated into Bulma's character to that degree.
Right,
Um,
exactly. And it has been 3 years. Yeah, and that's supposed to be something that is magnanimous from the paternal spirit to overlook mistakes that have already been rectified. And so,
and yet he's
yeah,
not being that way, and so Launch
right.
is a little bit embarrassed for him as an extension of him, which I think is very, very fitting for the situation.
Thing's annoying. It keeps doing this. Let me see. Oh, there we go. We were what, two? Yeah, and also in the dub, he says, "Oolong, it looks like your ears are longer." And he says, "Actually, I got them reduced." And it makes no sense. And when I was a kid, I was like, I don't get it. And it's because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, a lot of stuff gets lost in that translation, but in the sub, it's it's funny. He says it's been this long, and that's the first thing you ask, and he's blushing, because it's like it's almost to speak to Roshi's lack of
Like, hey
confidence
man, you're
because
still giving me shit for that? Like, come on.
yeah, it's like that was 3 years ago. If you were a good spiritual master, obviously you wouldn't have to bring that up.
Was it
It's
even 3
unbreakable.
years ago? It seems like that was a long time ago.
Even that, yeah. But
I mean, it's been 3 years since they've seen each other, and the first thing he asks is about something he did in like season
yeah, and I mean
one.
we've addressed this seasons ago, right?
Yeah.
Especially with Bulma's journey into the depths and the diamond and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for this part. I didn't really have anything else to add to. Oh, the only thing I wanted to add about Bulma is that she's wearing lipstick, which is and she's also wearing a really short dress compared to Launch. Just to compare these two while we have them on screen together, right?
yeah.
And so we see that like Bulma is in her youth and hasn't she's embraced the feminine modesty to the extent that she can't be exploited by it per se, but she hasn't necessarily forsaken all her vanity.
Yeah, and that's a character trait of Bulma, I think,
Right.
that
And it will
sticks.
be it I think this she's dealing with it in this arc.
Yeah,
And I guess she's like what, like 20 in this
I
arc,
guess.
something like that. She wasn't
The
10 when she
time is
left.
very
No.
yeah, the time is really nebulous here because as we're gonna see with like Goku's
Yeah, she was like
arrival and all of
21
that.
or something.
But she's a young adult, right?
Yeah. And I just wanted to point that out. Like she's wearing jewelry, more jewelry than Launch, let's say, and lipstick and a short dress and all that. And I mean, it's not to say that like, oh, that stuff is bad. It's just to say that the maturity that one gains as Launch is mommy as such, right? That
Yeah, yeah.
a mother wouldn't dress that way. And we're actually going to see Bulma evolve as we go on throughout the story.
Right. Well, I think that's a good place to step into the next couple of things that happen. While you do that, I'm gonna let you vamp because I have to mute for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. We will go into the next part here. So, Bulma asks if the others have arrived yet, and they let me continue here because this we've already talked about this part where Bulma basically defends herself, and Roshi says that her personality hasn't matured, which is actually the opposite of what is true. And I want to look at this real quick again. He basically, tries to cop a feel as usual. And he has his glasses on the whole time. His glasses don't come off. And it's funny because it is a backfiring of that lens into the self. And when someone can resist that, the peering itself is almost seen as a intrusion. And that's what we kind of see here is that Roshi doesn't have the right to do this anymore because Bulma has the pride in herself, to the dignity in herself, let's say, to not be tempted by such things. And so her personality has matured. And so it's funny that Roshi says that it hasn't. It's ironic in that way. And it's kind of sour grapes, I would say, for Roshi in this instance.
I like the scowl. You know, she scares him away with the look at this point,
Oh,
and it
yeah,
makes me
yeah,
think
yeah.
of Blonde Launch, right?
It is a little like Blonde Launch, yeah. It's very yeah, it's the feminine judge, right? It's the propriety of the feminine that's judging at this point. And like I was saying before you got back, Brock, it's the peering itself into the person, which is an intrusion for someone who has that like dignity and resolve that's already established, right? And that's why Roshi doesn't do this to everyone. It's not like Roshi does this stuff to like Yamcha or anything, right? And I'm not saying sexually, but I mean just like doing these kinds of things to Yamcha. And it's because that hasn't been the established relationship between the spiritual paternal, and the societal feminine as such.
It's intergenerational in a sense, I think, because you pointed out that Bulma is dressed with a short, like a short skirt, a short dress, which naturally draws the eye. And Roshi, being from this sort of like paternal, older generation, it's almost as if, and this is pretty natural. It's as though
She's
he's
asking
trying
for it,
to,
right?
yeah, he's trying to
Mm-hmm.
express to her that she is dressed a little bit scantily,
Yes.
but she's like, actually, I'm modest, don't come at me because for my generation, I'm actually very feminine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a little disconnect there where And it's also about that question of maturity. I think that's what brings that in, right? And it's like, "Oh, I see you haven't matured." And it's like, yeah, you haven't matured, old man."
Mm-hmm. You're still in your ways. Yeah, exactly. Great. Well, let's continue because the next thing, we haven't actually moved on, even though Brock told me to fill time. We haven't actually moved on.
There's
Roshi
so much
asks
to say.
about Yamcha. We're like going one frame at a time, I swear. Roshi
It's
asks
like the
about
like the
Yamcha.
first season, man.
I know it's good. I mean, I don't look, I'm a filler defender, but I think the filler that we just went through was probably some of the weakest throughout the whole
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Maybe. The only thing is like, see, the thing is the filler in Z is like interspersed. It's not like whole episode longs filler, basically. I mean, besides Garlic Jr. Um, but like Bulma's big day on Namek is a filler episode, but it's also like just one episode in a sea of gold, right?
Gold.
Gold. Anyway, so Roshi asks them if Yamcha was with them, and Oolong says he came back to West City and then he went off somewhere to train. And we know what he was up to. He was going and like fighting the lava and all that. And now you're going to have to fill time because I have to pause, mute.
Well, don't worry, because this is the part where they talk a little bit about, oh, or when was the last time you saw this guy? When was the last time you saw that guy? One thing that I really like about the sub, I don't know if it's in the dub, but one thing I really like about the sub is that when they mention, oh, I haven't seen him in 3 whole years, Roshi says, and I quote, "They must have been enormously motivated by Goku 3 years ago," which ties perfectly into what my thesis has been for this last little arc of Goku being at the top of Kami's tower. That he is essentially becoming an idea, that he is a mimetic individual, that he's ascended to a higher level of being, in that what makes Goku Goku is emanating down to the other people and inspiring them. That's what the training was about. That's what going their own ways was about. Was essentially that they are inspired by the representation of Goku. They've been inspired by what he's been able to accomplish by his mode of being, and now they need to do it themselves. That line, and I'll repeat it here, they must have been enormously motivated by Goku 3 years ago, is Roshi explicating what has happened and why it was so important. And so it wasn't for no reason that I was saying that Goku is like an idea and that they're all trying to embody the idea that Goku had embodied. So it is, it's, as they're sitting here kind of talking about it, it's kind of just like catching up. But at the same time, they have they're waiting, there's sort of this tension here for like, what does that idea mean? What does it turned into with the other guys? But I'm just I'm struck by how on the nose some of these lines are, because I'll say, as we've been doing this commentary as we go episode by episode, I'm not planning an episode ahead when I'm talking about like, oh, this is what they're going for. This is what the characters are doing. This is how they're emulating things. But we keep coming full circle to these ideas, and this is a big one, that Goku is an idea that's motivated them, that they are on this trajectory that's going to bring them back here after they've sort of been activated, so to speak.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
on
I think the joy too that we see on Roshi's face that they do decide to do this, because what do we see? Um, I mean, I don't need to jump ahead, but just to introduce this idea, what do we see Krillin doing when Dragon Ball Z starts? He's with Roshi again, right?
yeah,
And but the joy here that Roshi feels in having his students go out into the world on their own is a great one, in the fact that they can do it, and the fact that he's armed them to encounter things forthrightly and become more than they can be, is universally good. There's like no downside to that. And so Roshi's very happy about that, and he does mention that it is the spirit of Goku which then inspired them to do that, and they must have been enormously motivated by Goku, right? And I think too, there's kind of a legendary status to it, right? Because we have to understand too where they're coming from. They don't have this. This was part of the story that we don't know what happens after this. We have to erase our already gained knowledge, right? And so Krillin hasn't even gotten to talk to Goku. And so he kind of just knows Goku as he who went and like avenged his death. And
He's a
then
myth at this point.
yeah,
He
and
owes his
that's what
entire
we're
life
getting
to
at,
that
is
myth.
that he's becoming more than just physical matter, right? There's a spirit to him, and that spirit is possessing more or less the boys that go on this journey, and they embody the spirit of Goku by going out in the world, acting forthrightly with the chaotic, and thereby gaining mastery in that way, and walking in the Tao, all of that stuff. Now, Goku's on a different path now. Obviously, he was doing some of that stuff in the filler to a greater extent, let's say a greater symbolic extent than what the boys were doing. But that spirit remains the same. I don't even have this part in my notes, but we're talking about it.
It's mimetic, right? And we use the term mimetic all the time, but it's that Goku's become a meme, you know? Goku, to be like Goku, is becoming solidified in the culture, right? And that's what this is about. That's what this confluence is about. That's what this arc is about, is what does it mean to become the legend that you are, and to change the world based on those things. And so we're getting that sewn into this episode too. That motivation.
But let me mention real quick while it's timely, because this episode is actually lining up well with what's happening currently in the world. So it's we're about a week away from Thanksgiving here in our present time. If you're listening to this in the future, Thanksgiving 2025, and the American Thanksgiving, we know Canucks here. But the point of what I'm saying is they have the Macy's Day Parade, right? And then in the past few years, they've had Goku. Of course, they've had Goku in the parade, but he's been either with his super uniform, or he's had blue hair, or he's had red hair from all the super stuff. But interesting that we're talking about the memification of Goku, and like why it's kind of a point of Dragon Ball, and I think it's a meta point as well, because he's also very much a meme in our cultural zeitgeist. And the reason I bring up the Macy's Day Parade is because this year the float that they have Goku as a float, and he is dressed as he is on Namek. And I think that's for a reason. I think that's how
That's
Goku's
probably
going
the
to be
best.
remembered. Like that's the meme. That's the meme. It's the meme of Goku has never really exceeded that, and I think that's why it's so prevalent. But we're talking about the Macy's Day Parade. Welcome, if anyone's watching this later on is like just coming in at this part, just listen to our Macy's Day Parade rant. You'll love it. Go ahead. I'm curious to what you had to say about this, Brock.
No, I think that we use it. It's hard to get away from using this terminology as such, right? But Goku, as he is on Namek, I would say is Goku as such. It's like Goku, as far as Goku represents Goku. He's symbolic, right? Something that's symbolic is an embodiment of the idea that it represents, not just something that is a sign that points to it, but is really an embodiment of the spirit that animates it and that makes it mimetic in the first place.
Oh, and there's so
And I
many
think that,
reasons.
yeah,
We are going to talk about this like, whew, go ahead. Go. I don't
well,
even
that's
want
what
to.
Z is all about. Z is grappling with that as an idea, and we won't get to that in this episode, but this is laying the groundwork for us to step into Dragon Ball
Right,
Z.
we won't get into it in this episode, but the changes in the format are being laid to which the story can then commune with present day issues. Like it's not just like, oh, what's a myth? And it's about how like, people learn the differences between men and women. It's like, yes, it is that. But Dragon Balls is such a special story because it goes beyond that and it goes into the modern zeitgeist and what we deal with and how the propagation of the proper path forward is the only way to deal with these things. And we'll talk about that as we get to them, but I don't want to.
Oh, yeah. We can move on to the next thing after I say something, but I just want to point out that it's timely. In this episode opened with Roshi looking at his watch and saying, "Are they going to make it on time?" So time is very important for this analysis because Z is carrying the themes across time, and this
Mhm.
episode is laying the groundwork for us to step into the realm of that mimetic substrata we're talking about time, about how does this idea propagate across time,
And
right?
we are really in like the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai is kind of all about that and about how these mythological ideas that were discussed and presented in the original Dragon Ball, how they evolve and how they are still useful, right?
Yeah,
And how it's
yeah.
it's not just like, oh well, these are things like creation myths and all that, and it's like it's not just that, it's more than that, and it gets beyond that. But yeah, I don't want to. I mean, we're just gonna die when we get to Z. All our episodes are gonna be 5 hours long.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we do need to get to the really important
Oh
thing that
yeah.
happens
Let's see
now.
how many minutes. Oh, we're 3 minutes and 20 seconds now. All right, let's continue here. So, memification of Goku. Watch the Macy's Day Parade. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. As Bulma is talking to them, a young girl runs by and her balloon gets stuck in a tree, and Bulma offers to help. There's some humorous bits, which we'll probably talk about because they do have some symbolic significance, especially with Oolong. But then a mysterious young man shows up and grabs the balloon because he's taller than Bulma. And I think we'll have to stop it there so we can talk about it. So, first thing, Roshi says, I can't wait to see how strong they are, how much stronger they've grown. And at that moment is the balloon that flies past. Now, I haven't given it too much thought personally, but I'm curious to what you would have to say and any significance for it being a bunny balloon and Bulma being the one that's trying to reach it and can't reach it and has to have Goku reach it.
Well, this is sort of the fly in the ointment, I suppose, because let's think about it logically, right? So there's a young girl and she has a balloon. A balloon is like a toy, let's say. It's a fun thing that a kid plays with,
But it goes to the
and
heavens. That's why it's
and
fun.
it
That's the
rises
whole
up on
point of
its own. Yeah.
that's like the whole fun part of a balloon, right?
Yeah. It insists upon itself. It's a fun thing. It's fun in the sense that it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to fit inside a certain strata. It's just play. And what is play?
Mm-hmm.
It we've talked about it before in the Piaget sense, but it's a balloon is something a kid plays with, and they don't even have to have a friend to play with it. It's just play. So the balloon being a bunny it's funny in that sense because I hadn't thought about the bunny-ness of the balloon. But what's interesting about it is that it's a young girl. It's not a little boy, it's a little
Mm-hmm.
girl who loses this balloon. And then there's a little exchange that happens here that you would just write off if you didn't know what you were looking for. But what happens is that the young girl loses the balloon and it gets stuck in the tree. And Bulma walks over and she says, "I'll get it," but
Well,
she can't reach it. She's
and let's
not
say
big
too,
enough.
it's stuck in a high place, right? It's stuck in a higher place that she can reach.
And Bulma says, "I'll get it," but then she realizes she can't reach it. So what does she do?
The
Well, let's talk
first thing,
about
yep.
season 1. She turns to Oolong and says, "Get it for me." And what does Oolong say? This is a verbatim quote. He says, "How am I supposed to reach something you can't reach?"
I don't think there's any better evidence that we are right about Oolong's character than that. Like,
I mean, come on, man.
how much more explicit does it need to be? Exactly. Like, oh my
Well, then
gosh.
what does she do next? Well, Roshi says, "Well, I can get it for you, but could you?" And he trails off. And what does she do? But she scares him away with a scary look.
Yeah, because she knows in order this has happened before, let's say. Like in order to get what she wants, she can rely on Roshi, but she has to pay for it.
Right? She has to give up some of the modesty that she's shown up with in order to have him do it, right?
Hmm.
But then this young man arrives
But
who's
see,
bigger than
yeah, and even before Roshi suggests anything, that's when she shuts it down. It shows the level of maturity that's already there. Right? She's
yeah,
not even willing to entertain the idea.
she grasps him, right?
Yeah,
She can't grasp the balloon, but she grasps Roshi.
mhm.
And she can scare Roshi away without having to say anything. She can simply look at him in a mean way as if she's embodying Blonde Launch and scares him away.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's interesting because it's kind of implied here that like, oh, Oolong could do it, but he doesn't. What happens is that this mysterious young man who can reach higher than she can reach simply walks up and grabs it and pulls it down and gives it to her. To Bulma, not the
Says,
child.
here you
Gives
go,
it to Bulma.
Bulma. Right.
And all of that, I think, is symbolic of showing the insufficiency of the feminine alone to create the space where this type of play can be propagated, right? That
Yes.
Bulma has completed her arc, that she has become the woman, but that's not enough for
For her to
the
redeem,
child.
she can't redeem anything, right? She can't redeem the lost innocence of the child.
Exactly. And it's funny because it's a bunny because of what we know from season 1 of Bulma and her grappling with her own concept of innocence, right?
Yeah.
But who else to show up and to bring it back down but to be, Goku and to give it back to her so that she can give it to the child, not to give it to the child himself, right? But to give it to Bulma and enable her to be able to give it to the child.
It actually reminds me of something that my father told me when I was in church with him one time. He would always give me like the cash or the check that we were giving for the tithe and have me put it in the bucket. And one time I asked him, I was like, why do you do that? Why do I need to do it? And he's like, it means more coming from you, right? And there's an element of that for sure. And I think that the intentionality that Bulma had to help this girl and to have the let's say even kindred bond because of the bunny aspect of the balloon, that it would mean more for her to give it to him than give the balloon to the child than Goku. And so Goku, being one that's
Not just the
oriented
child, but the young
towards
girl.
right, the young girl, towards maximum meaning, since Goku's oriented towards maximum meaning, he knows that that's the proper thing to do.
Right. And Bulma not knowing that it's Goku, right? She takes it from Goku, but then she doesn't give it to the child yet. right?
She's kind of awestruck, right? Because even being around someone that's oriented towards the maximum amount of meaning is something that's not even normal for most people. And so they don't recognize him immediately. There's a maturity here that was missing before, and we'll kind of come back with Super. But anyways, let's go on before we get on a tangent on that. Oh, it's frozen. Give me 1 second. So they say, "Do you know him?" Everyone's like, "No, I don't know who this is." And then it gives us a full, like, there's just dramatic music, and it's a full thing to hear, to where we see Goku shrouded by this umbrella. And it's another aspect of the rain that's part of this, right? Like, it is raining. He has an umbrella. It is a time of uncertainty, and I think that's surrounding him at this moment. The Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Anything else you want to add before we continue on?
No, I think we should just kind of flow straight into Goku's reintroduction to the story so that we can expand on what we were talking about before.
Right. And he says, "Old timer, I'm so glad you're alive again." Right. This is to indicate that not only has Roshi not seen him, and all the dialogue is written so well to incorporate parts of the previous arc without being like, "Here's what happened last time." It's like natural things that you would say that reference things that have happened in the past, right? There's not like an exposition dump, and it doesn't need to be. We've already seen what happens. But referring to the things of the past allows for that every intellectual part referring back to another intellectual part, which is kind of what we're getting into about the bigger themes of Dragon Ball and how we're going to be talking about that from here on, basically, because we've laid the foundation throughout all of Kid Goku's existence. But
Yeah, well,
go
well,
ahead.
there's one thing I want to point out here, and then I'll kind of expand on it a little bit as we get further in. But it's that they don't recognize Goku because he has these external uh, adornments, I guess you could say, that he's put onto himself because of his head coverings. Remember, the iconic nature of Goku's design is that essentially his hair is messy, right? That's what Toriyama was going for with Goku's hair design, which has become so iconic, is that Goku is unkempt, that he's kind of a mountain man, that originally he was a child from the wilderness and that he was not part of society. And that's a core aspect of what makes Goku Goku. When he arrives here, he actually is unrecognizable because his hair is hidden. That externality of his wildness is actually tamed, and he shows up and he gets the balloon and he hands it to Bulma, and she's completely flabbergasted because the bigness of his spirit, you could say, does not line up with the bigness of Goku's spirit that she saw before, where it was wild. He's
Mm-hmm.
tamed it now, and he
Right.
has to let his hair down for them to recognize him as still being that spirit. And I
Well,
think that's just it's so that the fact that when they see him here, they don't recognize him is so important for what this arc is about, for why Bulma has the earrings and the lipstick, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But it's just so poignant that this is about propagating peace and creating a space in which children are able to play and view the bunny as an innocent figure, as an innocent shape, instead of what Bulma was in danger of losing before in the
right.
first season. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That is necessary for Goku to be able to do that and to show up the way that he does. Now, that changes naturally, and we get a little bit deeper into it. But this one moment, I think, is one of the most important moments of all of Dragon Ball and all of Dragon Ball Z, which is that We're not telling a story about fights, but we're telling a story about creating the world and creating a garden for the future, which is why time is a big part of this episode, right?
Yeah, we're starting to actually get into the time dimensional aspect, and that happens with maturity. I mean, think about, you know, the grown-ups in Peter Pan with the crocodile and all that, right? Um, Captain Hook. But one thing I want to mention before we get too far into it is the turban that Goku is wearing. So Goku is actually dry, right? He has an umbrella. So why does he need to wear a turban?
Well, for the reason I just said, right? That he is coming back into society. He is returning to the world in a sense. I mentioned earlier in this episode that the world had seen him as a sacrificial figure to sacrifice himself to defeat what Piccolo represented. And Goku is coming back as a part of the world, not as part of the wilderness, but as part of society now. And he's kind of in this liminal space. And a lot of what we're going to deal with all the way through the end of Dragon Ball is that Goku is now part of the world instead of being this sort of alien, and as part of this thing that's external from the wild and from the unknown, that is the thing that we have not integrated, that we need to integrate to be able to defeat evil, you know?
Hmm. I wanted to mention two extra things though, because I agree with what you said, but I think the symbology of the turban goes even deeper than that. Because, like I said, there's no reason for him to wear it to keep dry. He's actually wearing it as a sign of like humility, let's say,
Yeah.
humbling himself. And so there's an idea, especially in some pagan traditions and even sometimes in Christian traditions, with some sightings of Mary and things like that. But it appears that the divinity of someone can be masked by like a humble dress, and that's basically what Goku has here. He's dressing, and he has a humble way of dressing, and it's not none of it's really ostentatious, right? He has a simple robe with his pack, and like he's got his like bedroll back there, right? Like he's ready to just travel around, and so hiding or let's say covering one's head is seen as an act of humility, and so traveling especially to the Tenkaichi Budokai um to be in the sacred place, and we'll see him remove his head covering there, but traveling there, covering one's head is a humble sign. And another thing I want to point out too is what you were saying about his hair being a distinctive feature of him in the silhouette, and even like when we look at Toriyama's initial designs of Goku, like the whole idea of having a character that can be identified by the silhouette is something that Toriyama would very much agree with. And taking that away is also taking away the individuality of Goku, which is something that is being dispensed with and for the good of the community, right? And so he is not going about and proclaiming himself as some divine being or anything like that. He's taking his humility and taking away his individuality to travel amongst the people, to be and integrate with people that are in the everyday, let's say, like this child who is who's lost her balloon.
Well, two things to that as well, which is that when you mention the silhouette, it makes me think about what is the shape of Goku, right? Goku isn't traveling the world shaped. And this is like a weird way of saying it, but he's not shaped like himself. And in that sense, he might be known in the sense that he did sacrifice himself, he did defeat Piccolo. Traveling the world the way that he's shown in this, he's not the shape of Goku. He is a man. And then in that same sense, to go even further with it, I'm not gonna make this a really long discussion, but I would highly, highly recommend, and one of our big viewers, Bays, would also highly recommend that you look into Jonathan Pageau and his talks on the symbology of externality and of hair, and how it appears in biblical stories, how it appears in mythological stories.
Oh, for sure,
I
yeah.
mean, you can think of many things like Samson,
I mean, it's not
but
even just
hair,
that. Like, even if you think of Game of Thrones, I think it's actually one of the most symbolic things that Martin was able to tap into. And as we've
yeah,
seen later on in the books, it seemed to matter less and less. I think it's just a
it was
microcosm.
important from the very beginning, though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But hair being, I mean, you think of even the Garden of Eden. What do they cover themselves with with when they're moved out of the garden is with furs, right? Um, so the concept of hair and the concept of divinity, like how you were just talking about it, I think that's very apt, right? He um he shows up in this scene as just he could be anybody, just like at the beginning of the story. Goku could be anybody. Anybody could be Goku,
He is.
right?
He's like I am basically, right? Like
I'm just that spirit.
right. He's fully embodied. Right, there's no ego driven, right? And that's kind of what the rap is about, like. But he's traveled here to participate in the Tenkaichi Budokai, and that can't be done without an element of individuation. But for now, his traveling there, he's abandoned that. He's put that to the side to get closer to, let's say, the harmonies of the universe.
Yeah. I mean, well, Krillin has no hair, right? And we'll see as we get further
Tien
into
has
this
no
episode.
hair. Piccolo has
Yeah,
no hair. Roshi has no hair. A lot of
but
baldies.
Goku does have hair as part of his shape.
Right.
Um, and we'll see, like the height thing matters, right? In this scene, Goku's height matters. He's
Yeah.
able to reach up and grab the balloon and bring it down and give it to Bulma.
Right.
We'll get
Right.
to it in a minute, but Krillin has not grown the way that Goku has.
Well, let's get it. Well, let's continue then, so we can
Yeah.
eventually talk about Krillin in the next hour or so. So, like we said, no one notices who he is. And then the thing that actually, hold on, let me see. What is the line? There's two things I want to mention here. So he does say, like, where's Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Shiatsu? And then they're like, how does he know who they are? It can't be Goku, etc. And then this happens. Goku says, "What's the matter? Isn't it obvious?" And he looks to the tournament sign. Like, why would they animate, like, what's going on here, Brock? Why did they animate it this way? And why did the rain start letting up right here? We got another 20 minutes in this, like, 30 seconds.
Well, so Goku has arrived. The spirit that he represents has arrived for the Tenkaichi tournament, which we've already covered, represents the number one under the heavens. And they ask him, like, who are you? What's going on? Why are you the person that you are? And I think Goku is unconscious to the fact that he is even significant. What I mean by that is, number one, he's surprised that they don't recognize him. But also, when he looks at Bulma in this scene, like the very next thing that happens, um, is that the rain lets up, the child asks for a balloon back, and Bulma's like, "Oh yeah, here's your balloon." And then Goku is like, "What's wrong with you, Bulma?" Because he sees her lipstick and thinks that she's unwell, meaning that
Right.
he's not
We hadn't
conscious of
gotten there
her.
yet. We hadn't
Well, it's
gotten there
part of it,
yet. It
right?
is.
It's part of it because the rain is letting up because Goku has arrived as sort of a fulfillment. in the sense that, and I won't be able to fully explain this until we get to the end of the episode, but um at this point, Goku has shown up as an answer to a question. The rain is sort of this portent of like what springs up from the rain, what wisdom is going to be derived from the 3 years of a lack of a hero figure in our world to guide the mimetic principles of things. Goku arrives and the rain immediately goes away,
And
and
not only that, it
he
is
doesn't know.
also when it was promised for, and this isn't even known by the other characters, but when it's promised for Piccolo to have his revenge, right? We know that
Right.
Goku, and we as the audience know that Goku had been looking at this already as that level of seriousness. But it reminds me of a couple things. So the first thing that I want to say, and I was just asking those questions rhetorically, like I do have some analysis here for it, but
Yeah, yeah. The episode is so interconnected, it's hard to answer without being like everything.
every what's this everything? But he does say, "What's wrong? Isn't it obvious?" And he looks at the sign, right? And it says Tenkaichi Tournament. But what do we know that it actually says? Like the Tenkaichi Budokai, it's the number one under the heavens. So he says, "What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? I am the number one under the heavens." Right? It's his instantiation in that way. And I think that is what clears the reins, is that he says that he is. And so then the, let's say, uncertainty is washed away. And it also reminds me of when Gandalf comes back in the Two Towers in the story of the Lord of the Rings. He doesn't even remember his name, but he knows that he is the White Wizard. He is Saruman as he should have been. He is the number one under the heavens in that regard, right?
He's
And,
the fulfillment.
right. And so that's what Goku says he is. He doesn't even say he's Goku to start off. And I think it's such a great way to instantiate him, is because this might be the biggest change that we see in Goku. It probably
Yeah, I think
is.
so.
It
Actually,
probably is.
as you're saying it, it's kind of resonating because Goku isn't shaped like Goku in this sense. Before, there is a certain like, I think back to Kid Goku and his sort of like unabashed like nakedness. It's actually Goku in his mode of being rather than his own shape, right? It's what he does and it's the way he is instead of him being Goku. It's, how do I word this? It's
Right.
by virtue of
It's not the name
being
of it,
there with
right?
his own mode of being that he answers the question rather than before him being like, obviously I'm the number one, you know? It's like it's obvious whenever he's shaped like himself, but he's not this time. But what he does is that he walks up, he gives Bulma the balloon, and then they're like, "Whoa, there's this, the spirit that you represent that's able to do this thing that I Bulma was not able to
It's
do with
bigger
you
than
and Ongo
all of
Roshi."
properly tempered femininity. It's like beyond all of that.
Yeah, it's the logos. It's like I am an arbiter of the logos who has arrived to create clarity, and isn't it obvious? But it's not, but it is.
I mean, if and that's the thing, it's almost Christ-like in the way he speaks, because what you see him do from the symbols that we've just laid out, it's already explainable. It's already obvious what he is, right? And so it is the biggest change that we see in Goku. And I think one of the things that I want to also bring up is Toriyama's editors were upset. They were like, "Why are you going to change Goku? Everyone knows him as a kid. This is going to ruin the whole brand. This is going to ruin everything." And Toriyama's like, "No, I know what I'm doing. He needs to grow." And it's such a, like, that is like the muse that's speaking through a person that just like squashes corporate interests and just like destroys Deadly Art. And I'm just like, I just feel like such vindication when I listen to that story about it.
Yeah, I kneel, like
Yes, I kneel, Toriyama, I kneel.
fucking kneel. Because it would be so easy to go, you know what? We need to keep Goku the same so that there's a recognizable shape. But it's sort of like covering all of it in a couple of minutes. It's like he's not shaped the same, and without him being shaped the same, he represents that which the story is about, and then we can give him his shape back once he's recognized. It it's small but also massive.
Just like everything in this freaking episode, which, speaking of, we haven't even mentioned that he has the power pole back.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
Did we see him get the power? Well, I guess
Nope.
he just brought it back down with him, right?
Yes, it's kind of implied that he brings it back down with him, but I think it is a this is, and again, like, not to say that this is a Christian story or anything like that, but it is very Christ-like in the way that Goku is now saying, by taking the power pole, he's basically said that he is a sufficient intermediary between the people of Earth and the divinity of heaven, without
Well, the last
having to
episode,
rely on the ancestral spirit to lift one up to that realm after proving oneself through all of the trials and tribulations that Goku had to go through to get there physically. It's now actually just a spiritual revelation that Goku embodies as he walks the earth, connecting the heavenly wisdom to the earth. And it's very Christ like in that way.
it's actually incredible. I hadn't thought about it that way, but the last
It's
episode we
so
saw,
fucking good. Oh my
Ian was
god,
telling
this fucking
the guys that
show.
they needed to learn the flying technique, right?
Yep.
Because that's the only method by which those characters would, without the power pole, be able to reach Kami's lookout, right?
Right.
So, and that's the thing is Tien was the last winner of the Tenkaichi tournament, partially because he had the flying technique.
Oh, I mean, like
So,
100% because he had the flying technique. Yeah.
well, that is the thing that won it for him, right? That was the differentiation with Goku, was that he had that thing about him, but then Goku, without having that thing, earned it through suffering and through sacrifice, and then walks around with it on his back as though he's saying, "I am the Axis Mundi. I am the way. I am the
Yes.
way
I am the
by
way.
which."
That's what I'm saying when I'm saying it's very Christ-like.
Yeah, it is.
And he's already done it. The first thing that he does in this scene is regaining that innocence and giving it back to a child. It's like, okay, well, what's more divine than that? And so then, once Goku says, I am number one under the heavens, then the clarity comes and the rain lets up and then the sun comes out. This show is
Cinema.
so insanely good. I don't even know what to say. And so they're like, "Are you really Goku?" And like we've been saying, he takes off the turban and reveals his hair, and then he says that, Bulma and Roshi are much smaller than he remembers, and they just told him that he grew up. And the thing, though, that gets it, and I actually am gonna defend the dub here. I think it's better than this. But Goku does point at Bulma's lips and says, "Your lips are red. Are you sick?" In the sub. In the dub, he says, "Your lips are red. Are they bleeding?" And then she says, "It's lipstick" in the sub, but she says it's lipstick, you moron, in the dub. And I think I actually like the dub better for this particular exchange.
Well, the tone in the sub, is that she's annoyed with him for not getting it, and then she goes, "Oh, it's obviously Goku." So the tone of it comes through either way. But yeah, I do agree. I think that the blood rushing to the lips and what the lipstick represents comes through clearly in the dub more, right?
Yes. And that's the
Which
other
is that
thing too,
it,
is
it ties into what we were saying is that Bulma is drawing Roshi's attention sort of intentionally,
well, let's talk
right?
about lipstick, right? It's a sign of sexual readiness, right? Fertility, all of that. And so when she's putting that on, she's giving that display out. And so Goku initially sees it and just recognizes it as blood, not as lipstick, right? Because he just assumes that everyone is a honest actor because that's what Goku would do. And so he's just assuming that's what it is. He calls it out, and Bulma says, "No, it's lipstick, you moron," which I kind of like. I kind of like that part to Bulma, because she does have a history of insulting Goku. Um and maybe, actually, I don't know. Maybe I'm coming around to the sub, because maybe it is showing a sign of maturity that she's not insulting him. But either way, she knows for sure now that it is Goku. My gosh, it's frozen again. So
Well, he knows I like the dub because he recognizes it as blood, but not as the reason. Because we'll get to that, because there's a fulfillment of that at the end of this arc. But for now, he
yeah,
recognizes it as a rush of blood, but he doesn't know why.
right.
He still hasn't crossed that threshold into understanding that Bulma is signaling herself as an adult woman, right?
Right, exactly. And so we have our little reunion, and then we're kind of snapped back to not reality, but it's kind of like what's going on in the world at large. And there's an announcer that's saying everyone needs to register for the tournament. Goku goes to register, and this is the part where I want to mention two things. The first thing is, how did Goku get to the first tournament? Signing up or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think he's
No, it's
brought by
all
Roshi.
taken care of by
They're all
Roshi, right? It's
and they show up
orchestrated by
with
Roshi, and we're going to see that propagation, how Roshi is able to facilitate these things, being the embodiment as he is later on. But right in the beginning, we don't see any of that. In fact, Goku and Krillin both wear suits to their first tournament. In fact, I just watched this arc with my son for the first time, and he's kind of wild about Goku. He loves Goku, which is awesome. But anyways, so they both wear suits to the first one, and everything's orchestrated. They stay in the hotel. Roshi's organized everything. Launch doesn't even go with them. It's basically a Roshi affair, which is proper. And in fact, when you think about it, the whole thing was rigged too, because Roshi participated in it. The whole thing was basically kayfabe. If anyone knows the wrestling kayfabe terms from Roshi to the boys. But the second tournament, when Goku's on his own, what happens?
I think he arrives at the last second, right?
He arrives at the last second. He's tricked by this green fox in the filler episode, and it's kind of explained that. Yeah. Gosh, we have talked about so many of these episodes. But yeah, he's tricked by this green fox and almost misses the window to sign up.
Like the Peter Pan episode, right? It was sort of like the innocent thief situation.
Peter Pan, you mean Robin Hood?
I mean Robin Hood. No, sorry.
Yeah, I got you. Not Peter Pan.
You said green. I just like Peter Pan.
Peter Pan. Anyways, yeah, he signs up at the last second, and we see that his like responsibility and his wherewithal and like knowledge of the world around him is very much one of Goku's weaknesses in that iteration of Goku, right? And it's also one of the reasons why he doesn't listen to Roshi when Krillin is killed and he runs off to avenge him. And so in this arc, we see what happened. Goku arrives first and on time. And it shows a sign of maturity as well. It shows something that we like. This whole thing, what we see Goku do here debunks, like, I don't know, 90% of the choices he makes in Super. This is a responsible adult decision. Like, I'm going to arrive on time and sign up on time. And it's like,
without anybody.
without anybody. No one's going to have to tell me. Roshi's like, I hope they didn't forget. It's like he hasn't even seen Goku is alive, right? He doesn't even know because he was dead. And so that's actually a bigger step than people give credit for. And Goku being like, hey, you know, I forgot to bring the seals for the Mafuba during the Goku Black arc is just it's just not the same character. I don't care what you tell me. Like, that's not the same character as this.
What's up, Chris Sombra? Well, you might be surprised to find you're not catching the end of the stream. You're catching about 40% into the episode. This is a long one.
We're 7 minutes
welcome.
and 12 seconds in. So, you know, if you want to grab a coffee, you know, pour some Crown in there like we know you like, might be a little
not
while
until
still.
the beginning of the year there, Al.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You know, owls are old. That's all. Anyway, so like I was saying, this shows that level of maturity that's beyond even what we see the other boys contribute here, and we'll see that in a second.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good call out. I hadn't even thought about it, but it shows a difference, and it also kind of lines up with where the trio, quadro, the you
We
know, I keep
always
calling
forget Chaozu.
Chaozu. Look, we know that Chaozu is an extension of Tien, right?
Yes.
So I call him the trio because Chaozu is a piece of Tien as a more complicated instantiation. That they are closer in their instantiation to Goku was last tournament than he is this tournament, right?
Wait, what do you mean? Explain that again.
Well, Goku went his own way and he walked the world without his Nimbus last Tenkaichi tournament, right?
Oh, you mean
That was the challenge given.
before the last tournament?
Yeah. That was the setup for the previous Tenkaichi, right? Was that Roshi told him
But
that he
don't
needed
forget
to go
also
out
what spawned that was Goku's interaction with Gohan, right?
Yeah. And this time around, what is Roshi told the trio plus Chaozu, but that they need to go walk the earth on their own and that they need to do it on their own.
Right.
And make it back on their own. And so there's a similarity in how, but this time he's very timely. And this time they're barely timely, you know?
Yes. And I mean, even with the last tournament though, Yamcha and Krillin arrived with Roshi. They were still attached to Roshi in that way. And so they arrived on time fine. But guess what? Chaozu and Tien also arrived with their master on time. So we kind of see this this like learning curve that's displayed both in Goku and in the boys, the quartet. But I just wanted to iterate that it shows Goku's maturity here to have foresights and propriety such that he doesn't just act selfishly and to the detriment of others to, let's say, even disrespect like traditions and things that would have been the way to properly behave. So arriving on time and signing up on time, Goku has given that humility to the process, right? And that's why he says, isn't it obvious? And looks at the sign and says he's number one under the heavens.
Well, also, let's say hypothetically that he showed up just at the very last second, like last time, he would not have been able to get the balloon and to give it to the young girl, or to give it to Bulma to give to the young girl, right? So all of those are tied into what you're saying is that Goku arrived precisely when.
Because there are echoes of both of those spirits within Goku here in this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can continue. So, let me just mention this real quick. Um, Bulma is basically like, "Oh, Goku's so handsome now," and Poir says, "Don't worry, Yamcha will be handsomer."
Oh, in the dub,
No, this is in the sub.
will be handsomer.
It's right. It's right here.
There's something in my sub. There's a slightly different iteration of that, which is essentially like, "Isn't Yamcha more attractive?" And then Bulma says, "Oh, are you sure about that?" And so
Oh,
there's kind of
really?
a line of doubt, yeah, in the Crunchyroll, because that's how I'm rewatching it. But there's an intonation of Bulma being like, "I don't know, now that Goku's shown up." Um, just to kind of show that she's seeing something in Goku that she doesn't see in Yamcha, or she hasn't seen previously in Yamcha.
That she'll never see in Yamcha because Yamcha never actually matures to this level.
That's true. He just becomes a baseball player. So
And we'll talk about that. I don't want to deride baseball players. It's actually the only sport that I like for sport ball. But
it is sports ball, though.
it is still sport ball. Anyways, just wanted to mention that quickly here. And Oolong saying that women are fickle. We have to remember too that
Fickle woman.
Oolong is that instantiation of Bulma's masculinity. And so him criticizing her here for being fickle is apt and something that she should be beyond. Something also, I don't think we've seen Oolong dress so well before. It kind of goes reverse.
Yeah, I think you're right. Um,
And it
well,
also is
Bulma
apt
shows up
because
dressed up
this
in
this is
shit.
actually good criticism towards Bulma, where before Oolong may not have had the best criticisms towards Bulma, but this is actually apt for what she's saying at the time.
Well, it's interesting because Bulma's not wrong, but I think Bulma might be wrong about her status. Like, Bulma is not the person to put as someone who's like, "Ooh, Goku's someone who's available to me." Bulma, in and of showing up the way that she does to this tournament, right? We pointed out that she's wearing a short skirt and she's kind of playing a game and she's tempting, but also giving angry glares at Roshi for looking. I don't think it talking about timeliness, it's like, think about even where we are in 2025, right? That she's kind of in the game. She's in the young girl, the young adult girl game. And
Yeah, about to go on
so
the whatever podcast.
so it's her conscience kind of calling her out for being like, "Yeah, okay, sure. You like Goku, he's hot, huh? Okay."
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it is pointing that out and pointing out that the virtuous action would be to remain loyal to the person who has committed himself to her, even though he's gone away for years to train. In that's kind of the sticking point. It's kind of what Bulma is upset about. Is
I
that
mean,
she's been
War is
excluded in
sitting
that.
on his head as he says this, right?
Yes, and that's another.
Yeah, and we pointed that out earlier. There's kind of like a confluence there where they've come together to represent that they are a good mirror to each other, at least at this point in the story. And you know, again, this is that hypergamous nature that Bulma is displaying, that she wants to reach above her own status and that she's not instantiating herself appropriately.
Exactly. And we kind of see that as well with the just the way the composition of this shot is, with Poir being above Oolong in that way, and it's like showing that um Yamcha's seeking personal growth while staying faithful to Bulma is a superior ever again gonna see Puar rest on Oolong's head?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't think it happens. Just throwing it out there, you know. My intuition is telling me that
You're like, right.
Toriyama is a genius and knows it. You know, you have to trust in that for you have to have some faith in that, let's say. But I don't.
But yeah, I think that's a good segue to get into the next phase of this, which is leading into the
The
trio
boys,
plus Jiaotsu.
the quartet, man, the colors too. Like, there's just something so nostalgic about this color palette here. That's arriving at a point. It's almost like not. It reminds me of autumn in a way. I know it's not like autumn here at all, but there autumn in a way, like the spirit of autumn almost. There's just something tranquil about this with
Episode's called Changes, right? Autumn's when the leaves change color.
yes, and also like at the sunset, the sky changes to a unique like pink, and it happens. You know, I mean, it happens here where we live now, Brock. But you know where we came from, I don't remember seeing it as such.
No.
Um. Anyways, yeah, there's just something that's really nostalgic about it, and something and that period when things seem in seem apt for change and seemed ready to have the potentiality to improve. I think that's something that all humans kind of have a deep desire for. It's kind of why we all look back at our childhood like that, because there's a potentiality there in our childhood. We could have been anything, we could have done anything, right? And that nostalgia echoes throughout that.
Yeah, there's a bittersweet kind of nature to the tone of what we're watching here. You know, you've got the episode opens on rain, and the rain clears up, and the sky's blue, and then it starts turning pink and purple, and oranges start coming in. And then eventually, in a minute, we'll get back to the rain again, right?
Yeah, it's so gorge. So gorge. So they wait around, and this is the thing too. It's implied that a lot of time has passed. So Goku did arrive like early. Just want to reinforce that. Like it's time enough that like his umbrella's dry and all that. Everything, a lot of the like sidewalks have dried up and everything. So then Roshi goes up there to try to register for them. And the monk there is like, no, we can't allow that. That goes against the rules. I just love this characterization of Launch. Like she's always gonna see the good and like try to like and this is literally it. She's trying to overlook their irresponsibility for not being there on time. She literally
Also,
closes her
Goku,
eyes.
right? Like Launch and Goku are very aligned.
Yes, yes. Man. There was Oh, Shen the Crane Hermit? No.
No.
And so even there, Goku says they'll be here soon. Like he still has faith in them, right? Launch is the first one to like be excited when that opens. All that. Bulma's pacing. And then they come up with this plan, right? Worrying me a worry to him personally.
It's ironic in a sense because with Goku showing up the way he has, it's evidence that Goku is spiritually much more powerful than they are. So if the plan goes off here, which is they start discussing, well, you know, Oolong, you could shapeshift, and Puar, you could shapeshift, and and Roshi has a bald head, and he could be Tien technically. If they all impersonated them and accommodated for them running late, they wouldn't be able to be spiritually on the level of Goku anyway. But it's funny, it's funny to think that the paternal spirit does want to try to protect their potentiality, so to speak. But against Goku, Goku's been here for a while, and Goku has the faith.
Yes. Well, I think that actually goes into not only that, but like part of the theme of the whole episode. But I think the point of it and what the episode is saying is like the individual has to stand on his own, his or her, on his or her own merits.
He has to do it his or her own way, right?
Right. And so not only was it Oolong saying like if you can't reach it, Bulma, I can't reach it, but now it's saying like we can't do this for them anymore. And so
Yeah, how can I reach if they can't?
right. And
How could
so
Puar be Bulma or how could Puar be Yamcha if Yamcha can't?
exactly. And so they don't even try it, which I think is a great part of the episode, a great part of the story. I like that they don't try it. And even after exactly. Goodness, midnight callers.
But that's what that episode's about. It's sort of like the extrapolation of oneself versus your own actions, right?
Right.
And we've come full circle on this, which is to say that like that is not sufficient for what the wisdom is that the story's about. At the time it was about the Dragon Balls, but it's the same thing. Like we're talking about perpetuating that wisdom instead of getting it for yourself. How the hell are you going to perpetuate that wisdom without showing up, you know?
Exactly. There has to be though, right? In how they need to be unified in order for and this will come up again and again. They have to be unified in order for that person to be actualized. And so Oolong's like, yeah, I can make their body. It's like that's not enough anymore. That's especially not enough to be one to come and present themselves under the heavens, which we've seen Goku travel with his head covered in humility to travel here. It's like you're not going to be able to trick your
He's
way through
shapeless.
this.
We were saying it earlier. He's shapeless,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
yes.
How are you going to do it just as the shape when Goku shows that actually the thing that causes the rain to dry up is not the shape, but rather the mode of being and showing up?
Exactly. And so they don't try it and they wait it out, and then the registration booth closes, and just as it closes, there's only wait, hold on. There might only be 3. I'm gonna laugh if there's only 3. No, there's 4. There's 4 blurs that come across and sign up in the registration booth before they can pack it up. And then we see the boys, and we'll pause when we get a good look at all of them.
And Goku senses it, right? Because he can sense spirits now. So he can sense their ki. He knows they're showing
And
up on
why can he
time.
do that? What we've been talking about during the filler, which is how to sense other spirits and how to interact on the level of ideas amongst others, right? In that fashion. And so when he gets the intonation of these 4 coming, he knows first, right? And so he's not surprised when they come by.
We also get a nice little shot of him sensing them,
It
his perception from theirs.
is to differentiate that, yeah. And so there's a few things I want to point out about their designs. So we do see that Chiaotzu and Tien have the hat. What are those called?
The
Conical
straw
hats,
hat.
straw hats, and they're very much in the sim. I want to say the kanji there is probably different, but I can't see it right now. But they're dressed very similarly. Then we see Yamcha, and this is the first time we see Yamcha with his scars. We also see that he has these like shoulder pads. We're kind of seeing the first intonations in art design towards some shoulder pad, some shoulder pads in the future. We'll just say that. And then
Yeah.
Krillin is actually honors Master Roshi, but also one that like accepts contemporary fashion and wants to be accepted and instantiate himself with that, and that's why he has his name embroidered on this like modern coat. And when we see like Krillin versus right,
Yeah, there's a thing about Krillin that's interesting. It's like he's wearing streetwear versus you see Tien and Chaozu, and it's very traditional. Um, there's sort of a reverence to tradition in the way that Tien moves versus Krillin is sort of, and it's just an extension of what I've been saying about Krillin since the very beginning, but Krillin is ego driven. I mean, he's Goku's ego ultimately,
mm-hmm.
and I'll stick by that until we're going to talk about it for a long fucking time. But when it comes to Krillin, there is an externality to him where he's hip and he's cool, and it has to do with him being this extrapolated ego self type thing. And he's necessary as that entity, and so it's like Krillin's kind of cool, He's small, but he's cool.
He's looking cool.
Yamcha, a little bit different with the shoulder pads. I'm curious if you want to talk about the shoulder pads now, or if you want to hold off on that.
Uh, I'm curious what you have to say about them now.
I don't have a whole lot to say about him right now, but I do think that um, him showing up. Well, first of all, he looks like he's wearing football pads, right?
Yeah.
And he becomes a baseball player. And there's an element of what we've talked about with play and the way that Yamcha represents play. We've talked about the Wolf Fang Fist and reciprocal play being a part of his character development. I think that he's wearing something that looks kind of like pads, like he's playing a game in this scene that's representative of him being an elevation of that. Like in the past, he's willing to play the game. Now he's like almost like an instantiation of the necessity of this being a game that he's showing up in the first place, meaning that a tournament, and maybe this will bear itself out as we get through these episodes. I haven't watched them in years, but it's almost like he's an instantiation of the fact that a tournament in and of itself is a game, and he's a representative of that, and he's showing up with an understanding and an acceptance of that on
Mm.
a higher level than he's been able to in the past.
Perhaps I think we'll have to dig into that as we go on in the episodes. It's very strange how he's dressed, but also the scars show a level of maturity and a brush with mortality that is implying a level of maturity that's been let's say given or experienced by Yamcha here. And I think the robe he's wearing shows that as well, that like level of maturity and reverence. Whereas like the shoulder pads, the battle armor, the Saiyan battle armor, as it'll come about, it'll like transform into eventually, um, is showing that that degree of utility that is being applied and will be necessary to Yamcha as he goes forward. And I think that utility goes along with what you're saying about how he's going to be a sportman.
Well, it's the game of life, right? That yeah. And Yamcha, I think that as his character develops, he starts to understand that hierarchies and participating in hierarchies is, yes, it's a game, but the game participate is in the straw hats that you see in the pyramid shape on Tien and Chaozu, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like the bunny balloon, right? There's a game, there's play in playing with toys and balloons that Yamcha is taking that to its very limit, to its very essence, that all of life is essentially a game we're always playing, you know? And I think that might be, at least at this point in the story, the best that Bulma could possibly contend with too, and he represents that, you know?
Hmm.
And why he's the one that needs to be able to hand that balloon down to the kid, right?
Hmm. And yeah, I think that also explains the name of Yamcha's um newest technique, the spirit ball, right? We'll talk about that later, but I think that is an iteration of what you're talking about.
But yeah, there's a certain thing about play that's very important that we keep coming back to, especially when it comes to Yamcha. You know, reciprocal play, the purpose of play, not just for the self, but for the society. You know,
Hmm.
and this arc is about society.
Redemption, I suppose.
Mm, yeah,
So we have our
but yeah,
stinger here. It's our halfway mark. It's 1 hour and 53 minutes. So they sign up. Poir runs over to Chaozu, to Yamcha, and everyone basically said, "Look how much I've grown. I'm so tall now." He's like barely as tall as Roshi, and then Goku comes up and he's like, "Hey, Krillin, what's up?" And this is a part that I think is pretty overlooked. Like this is a significant part, I think, to both the meaning of the story and Krillin's personal character growth here, because um he says that Goku's a jerk, that he missed him and he never got to thank him for. It's not a small thing, right? This is something that's lost later on, in especially in like, but at this point in the story it's not that way, and it's a big deal, and Krillin was dead. And so I think the that's the personal side for Krillin, but the part that it's meaningful to the story is that Goku is an idea. He has more. Let's say he is responsible for more than just Krillin at this point, and so it's not just on him to have this personal, the way and the let's say divine path that Goku has adopted, more so than being back for um, personal character drama. And I don't mean to say like drama. I guess it is drama, but um, in that way. And so it goes on to the story to iterate Goku again as an idea, and it also shows Krillin's growth as someone who is not just someone who looks up to Goku now, but someone who has been to the brink of mortality and back, and has the maturity that goes along with that, and has the humility.
yeah. I think there's a lot to it, but one thing I want to point out about specifically when it comes to Krillin and his relationship with Goku, I'm, I'm always been by Roshi, so he's like a mini Roshi that is attached to Goku. Well, when Goku sacrifices himself and then defeats, uh, I say he sacrifices himself. There's a certain death rebirth that Goku goes through in the process of defeating Piccolo. By doing so, he is able to revive Krillin. And Krillin, if we're going to accept what I said, which is that Krillin is this ego extrapolation of Goku, Goku leaves the world. Krillin is like, he's taken on a massive weight onto himself to represent Goku. Just walks his own way, and we see what happens in the filler arcs and all of that. Well, we mentioned that Krillin is kind of cool. Like he has this externalization to himself that he's like streetwear. and he doesn't have this tradition, but instead he's kind of like he's got like the windbreaker and the symbols and the cap and all of that. And what's interesting to me about Roshi's gotten for them, Bulma comments that Goku's become really cool now. Not Krillin, but Goku's really cool now. Well, Krillin has worn the mantle of being the coolness of Goku in the world, you know? It's like the ego of Goku out in the world without Goku to move. And then Krillin finally reunites with Goku and he's like, "I never got to thank you for bringing me back into the world, you moron." And calls him an idiot and all of this stuff. But I think that Krillin is that in the sense that that's his relationship to Goku. Like he I think to some extent Krillin where like bears the responsibility of what Goku has done for him. And so this kind of is like borne out in this scene where Krillin finally gets to express the thanks to Goku for his existence, because Krillin's existence is fundamentally contingent upon Goku's sacrifice, right? Krillin is killed in the necessary ego death that Goku has to go through to be able to defeat Piccolo, and then Goku has to sacrifice himself, and then Krillin is a byproduct of that, as an idea of Goku roaming the world with these other guys representing the ideas of the inspiration that Goku has given out into the world, right?
And I would also iterate that it's evolutions. Like Goku undergoes almost under the I would say the ultra divine water,
Mm-hmm.
but then we'll see actual like physical instantiations of sacrifice.
But there's like an intonation of that into like the interplay between them in what we're talking. I think it's just lost on people, the weight. And you pointed this out because it's like, oh, just death doesn't really mean anything in Dragon Ball because people can just be brought back by the Dragon Balls. But like, it's very important here. It's not just important in the sense that it's like, oh, here's a character and another character. It's important in the sense that Krillin is a part of Goku.
Right, and it signifies the redemptive power of Goku's action in the defeat of King Piccolo,
Mhm.
and be able to resurrect the dead, and that's
Not even
literally
just that.
like
It's like,
Christian.
what is the last thing that Krillin did in the show before we got to this episode, just a couple episodes ago? Well, it's that it's all ego, right? Like he shows up to this.
That desire for
He wants to be like Goku.
he
He
does,
wants to
but he
do what
also
Goku
wants
would
to be
do.
like Roshi. He also wants like a
Mhm.
girlfriend, and he wants girls to like him and things like that, right?
So like the substance of Goku's mode of being is missing, such that the conflict of the last little like filler arc happens. He's the instantiating, or he is what kicks off what happens in that last little filler arc, right? Because of what he's lacking in Goku. That's not
Right.
there,
Sure. Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
I see what you're getting at.
And so it's like it's finally resolved here. Like he comes back together with him. Sorry, I know that I'm like kind of regressing back into what we're talking about, but it's like it's hard to put into words how important it is that these two come back together, and then because they facilitate each other's growth, you know?
Yeah, and it's
Like
gonna
Krillin
be
can
no.
only grow so
You're
much without
definitely
Goku.
right, and you're definitely right in a way that it's a spiritual bond beyond what we've seen Goku develop with any other character, and that's because of the externalization that Krillin represents of the ego the ego aspect of the not Goku, but like the way that Goku travels, right? The ego aspect that can come about among that.
Yeah, the way he moves in the world, the martial art, so to speak. It's like there's a piece missing for Krillin that finally gets given.
We see Roshi has already taken care of everything. He's rented rooms for everyone so that everyone can catch up and talk with each other. Everyone thanks Roshi. And it's another thing to indicate Roshi's harmonious actions within the world. And so the next thing we see is a secret conversation, but it looks like Launch can hear them. And Tien says to Roshi, he says that he'll let the boys have a chance. And this time he says, I'll pass. I no longer stand a chance against the lot of you. So one of them is saving face with humor. The other one is saving face by being just straight up.
Simultaneously with the clouds rolling back in the background, right?
Yes. So the reunion before the storm, right? So we've had our little intonation of tranquility and reunion with all that, but now the changes are going to keep rolling in.
But yeah, I think it's necessary that this is when the clouds come back, because it's a conversation about Roshi, you as the spiritual father, as well. Then the
Yes.
clouds roll in. Like, okay, well, now it's on you to deal with the rain.
Yes. And the other thing is they kind of don't know. No one but Goku knows the stakes of this tournament. The thing
Mhm.
is, to everyone else at this point, the stakes seem lower than what it was last time. It seems like it's going to be some just fun, but it's obviously foreshadowed here with the dynamic experience. And the other thing is, waves and clouds are both made of water, but they also have they have an undulation about them, right? That indicates some path. We'll continue. Krillin says that he thought he was taller than Goku, but he guesses not.
Yeah, just a continuation of what we were saying earlier. You
Yeah.
know, like Krillin would not be sufficient to do, let's say, what Goku did when he showed up, and it might be shown in this sense with height, but fundamentally that, like I said, Krillin being this extrapolation of Goku in an ego sense can never be taller than Goku, because Goku is very small in ego. He's very small in his own uh, footprint and his confidence and his head wrap and the humility and all of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think that's it. See, that is where Bulma says that Goku is so cool now to Oolong. And Oolong's kind of shocked. He says a woman's heart ever changes. Um,
Yep.
but I think that what you were saying about right is that his conversation with Krillin and his naturalness to be around Krillin and the the dynamic that they have is such that it is somewhere where he is actually into the world and into society, because we see Goku talking with the most modern looking of the quartet, right? The most modern dressed, and he gets along with them well, and he can joke around with them and all that. And so all of these things and getting the balloon and all of that gives Bulma this intonation that he's cool in the sense that he is now able.
Goku was dressed the same as Krillin, with the streetwear and the cap and all of that. Like, it would immediately turn Bulma kind of away from Yamcha, and she'd just be like, "Oh, Goku's the guy," right? But there's something about Goku that's very austere, and so there's an externalization of Goku that's very cool. But the way he moves, his interactions with Krillin, she's like, "Oh, he's cool," you know?
Mm-hmm. So then we get to this part where they go to the hotel. And let me see here. So we do see puts out like this little spirit guy here. It's on the
Okay.
screen.
Well, it happens in a really specific order, um, through this sequence, right? There's a few conversations, and then the clock tower sequence goes, right?
Mm-hmm. No. It's literally just straight from there. Oh, does
Oh,
not.
I see. It
Yeah, lightning
shows.
strikes, and then she puts up the
I
little
see.
spirit, the little ghost guy. We see. So, what do we want to say about this? I'm curious what you have to say about this.
I don't have a whole lot to say about Bulma hanging, as far as what that represents. And maybe it'll will itself out over the course of the next 15 minutes. But um, to me, it's just sort of like it's like meditative thing, It's like Bulma's looking at the spirit of the thing, and then it just kind of passes. So the spirit of what we're talking about probably is clear in the next few little interactions that we have, but I don't have a lot for that specifically.
Well, you're right. It is a traditional thing. So it is in Japanese culture. Children, especially, will hang these up to pray for rain, for the or pray for sun. The changes that we're undergoing, and not to mention the episode title a million times. But we do see that there is still immaturity and room for Bulma to grow. She's still a childlike entity in the daughter, and that she'll still make these little paper dolls, because we don't see this happen later on. Like, this is kind of the last girlishness that we see out of Bulma. And even still, like, we're gonna see her, the ending of Dragon Ball is gonna change from her original song about romance, right? It's gonna change to something else. And right, yeah, it's a lot like the bunny balloon, and she's lost her innocence, and she's grown past it now, and like, this is a little tether back to that. And I think it's it's implying that it's there we go.
Well, look who it is. What's up, Baze?
Bays. Man, we're just
Good to see
talking
you.
about these paper dolls. Shine monks. I'm not going to try and say it because I'll just say it wrong and then embarrass myself. Embarrass our whole brand. Well, it paused again. All right, so then it cuts over to Krillin and Goku, who are sharing a room, and they're talking. Krillin's confident and excited, and he kind of here, I think this is a pretty good evidence to what Brock was saying about the represented in Krillin here. And he says he wonders if there'll be any other really strong guys there, right? He's trying to get excited about it, just like Goku would, right? A lot of Goku has imparted on Krillin, and the things that have kept Krillin are going to keep him more aligned towards Matt. What
I
else
like
do
that
you
though.
go ahead?
There's an element of Krillin's excitedness that is like knowledge that he doesn't have about the nature of the tournament that comes out throughout this scene. And Krillin's very much just sort of like oh boy, this is really exciting. And there's a somber, almost melancholy tone to this scene that was cited, but Goku is an adult, and he understands that the stakes are not necessarily just a game. Like I was talking about with Yamcha.
Right.
It's not really just fun anymore.
Right, and that is kind of, it does set the tone here, and like he's happy about
Yeah, his
it and
face gets
thinks
very
about it,
serious.
and he thinks about the stakes, and I think that's exactly implying what we were talking about. So he thinks about the stakes. He imagines Piccolo Jr. being born or being egged away. So Krillin asked Goku what training he did, and Goku just
What training did Kami give you? And then he gets his response, which is not a response he can understand, which is
whoa.
that Goku's unconscious. He learns to sleep in the
Hmm.
face of the most challenging thing that he can't even comprehend.
Right, and I think it also sets about that peace of mind, because we see the others, and Yamcha's like drinking coffee and stuff. And I don't know, it's just a contrast that the unconscious can level here, I said, Yamcha and Tien are not exactly resting. But we did get a chat here I wanted to read, because live in South Carolina at John Here's Georgian Restaurant. Shout out to Paper Dolls. Don't even know their music, but shout out. Thanks for that, Baze.
Yeah, no, Baze had mentioned Durpor Robbins to us before. Durpor Robbins collaborates a lot with Jonathan Peugeot, which has inspired a lot of my analysis here. So, definitely appreciated. I'll follow up at the end of this episode. I have some stuff that I want to say about Peugeot, but yeah, no, I think that they're aligned in their analysis as far as I've been able to understand, that they're starting universal representations that we've been talking about.
Very good. And I think we'll just continue here. Like little band for the kids, and so little Jimmy runs up and he's wanting to see it. And
Well, before we get into that,
oh,
there's two other short clips before
you're
this
talking about
sequence with
Yamcha and Tien?
Yamcha and Tien. Two
Right.
quick things, not
Okay,
really
go
that
ahead.
deep. But first of all, Yamcha and Puar are talking, and Yamcha's, Puar's talking for the past 3 years. What do you think about that?
I think it shows that there's a level of synchronicity that can be achieved in a spirit, the embodiment of a spirit that can allow not only the conscious but the unconscious to align in that way. And I think it also has to do unknown in the unconscious. But other than that, I don't have anything.
I don't think it's an accident that this is on the heels of what we just said, which is that Krillin asks Goku what type of training he's learned from Kami. Goku's already asleep. And then Puar talks to Yamcha about his training, and he says, well, I've been training in my sleep, right?
Right. It's about,
And then
yeah.
the next thing we see is Tien meditating. So it's kind of to show that the others, aside from Krillin, because Krillin is more of a conscious extrapolation of Goku, the others have also been trying to master this ability to unconsciously take in everything that they can, which is like the way in the last Budokai Tenkaichi.
Fair,
But
yeah.
he's learned from Popo, but Tien already had and defeated Goku last time. And that Yamcha has been training in his sleep as well. Now, Yamcha has trained in his sleep before. I believe there was a little bit, just a sequence before of him training unconsciously with the wolf spirit. You remember that?
Vaguely.
What stood out to me is that there's something definitely going on there with this next step of the ability to unconsciously what would you say, like absorb the wisdom that they're about, the way that Goku's moving in the world, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
That
I think it's accepting the genius of the dream for them both, right?
yeah, and that Krillin's a little too conscious. He's a little too external, not internal enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be able to really comprehend the scope of this of what is happening in this new tournament that they're about to go into.
I think this is funny too. Tien says it's time to settle the score with Goku at last. It's like, you're up 1-0. What are you talking about? People will say like, oh, Vegeta beat Goku every time. It's like, yeah, but he didn't actually.
Yeah, he might have won the fight, but he didn't win the war, right?
Yeah. And so, anything else to say with these chaps?
No, I just wanted to point out that
Fair,
it
yeah.
seems intentional, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think it's very intense. And no one can help little Jimmy. Oh no. The rocks are falling. And then all of a sudden, a green hand flashes out and points at them and blasts them to bits. Everyone is shocked. And then we see him, Ma Junior, standing
This scene,
there. Go
the
ahead.
details seem ancillary, but they're not.
Next to the hotel. This is the hotel.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, in the city, specifically in society, in the rain, because it's pouring down rain, a young runs towards them. His mom is like, "Oh, okay, yeah, go towards it, I guess." And he's got a toy truck under his arm. Suddenly, lightning strikes the clock and rubble comes raining down toward him. He drops his toy, and his mother dives to save him, so she covers him with her body, only to have Piccolo appear and save them from the falling rubble. And when the mother thanks him, he simply walks off, stepping on the toy and crushing it. And the hand of the giant clock pierces the ground next to them. How it's insane to me how much this is a reflection of the scene that we just got with Goku earlier with the balloon time. And he's got a toy that he's running with that he drops, just like the girl drops her balloon. And this time episode, Goku being timely, Roshi watching his watch, the guy showing up just in the nick of time. Well, time has run out essentially, and the heavens strike the clock and the rubble comes falling down, and the woman goes to shield the boy, just like Bulma steps in. But this time it's Piccolo, and he saves them. But the way that he saves them is in a way that destroys the toy, whereas it to the boy. So the scene exists as a juxtaposition against the way the episode opened. And it's just incredible to me. Like, it blows my mind that this isn't a story now of how Piccolo Sr. was. Piccolo Sr. saves them, but in the process of doing so, destroys the toy, destroys play itself. And so it sets up the tone of what Goku is fighting for in this tournament, which is to say that if the mimetic idea of Goku wins, play is preserved. But if Piccolo wins, it's sort of the rain wins and the destruction of play wins. You
Well,
understand?
I do, and I think what you're getting at is something I've thought about with this a lot too, and it's that um Piccolo Jr. is here to not just kill Goku, but dismantle the process by which Goku is created. So the has to be destroyed. That's the toy truck that needs to be trampled on. You see, and
Yeah.
so I think there was a little more though. I don't think Piccolo Senior was strictly just besides that, I think I agree with what you're saying. It's just that um it is foreshadowing of what Piccolo Jr. and dismantling the system and debasing it so that no other Gokus can be created to destroy martial arts.
Exactly. That's the trampling of the play, right?
Yes, yes.
It's not necessarily, and that's why he saves the boy and saves the mother, because he wants to perpetuate a system under which he rules where there is no play. He
Yes.
doesn't want to destroy the players, he wants to destroy the system. And that's why this is sort of the final test of Dragon Ball,
It
what the
is, yeah.
thesis of this final arc is.
Right, exactly. And it also is why the only way for it to expand is the way that it does, which makes sense when you think about it, but we'll get there eventually. So,
But I
right.
think that also the interplay of the feminine and the masculine plays into it too, right? Because it's a young girl at the beginning of the episode, vehicle that's a toy truck, that's the way that a boy plays, and then it's like Goku can save that easily because we already covered that, right? Half of it. And Goku has to come in and actually create the space by which martial arts rises, and that the masculine can rise up and be like him. And so the stakes are that mimetic energy, that idea of Goku that we've been talking about that he's created in the last arc.
Hmm. And that he needs to preserve these systems that allow for people to propagate themselves forward. And
Hmm.
so we see as Piccolo does all this stuff, everyone else is asleep soundly. And then the next day arrives, and the fireworks go off as we get to the first part of the opening ceremony of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. They're launching up mortar shells, and the crowd's all watching. Nothing. I don't think anything really to say here that we haven't already said about the Tenkaichi Budokai per se. But Brock, if you wanted to say anything about this quick little establishing sequence, feel free.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's the rain is gone again, and we're setting off fireworks and
The Tenkaichi Budokai will be laid bare from this. So at least there will be that and not as much uncertainty. Roshi says, why you're all doing well in your own path. Maybe you should have your own uniform.
how the rain rolled in before was the conversation we just talked about with Tien and Roshi, where Tien was like, "Are you going to participate?" And Roshi says, "Well, I'm not going to be able to stand up to you guys, so go ahead." And then the rain rolls in. So it's kind of it's begging the question of like, are you the spiritual father? Do you have a symbol for other people to wear?
My goodness, it froze again. Right, but it also does show a level of respect and humility that they want to wear it, and we're going to see them get into it in just a second. And so they kind of see off the viewers, and they get into the qualifying round here, and they see the last of the animal people. Then we do see that Krillin has made his own Turtle Hermit uniform. And I'm going to destroy VLC Media Player because it keeps freaking freezing. So Krillin and Yamcha both have Turtle Hermit uniforms, and Goku also has one. I imagine Goku just got his from a clothes beam from Kami. The other two apparently went to a tailor or whatever, but clothes beam, pretty powerful.
They all had the same idea,
Yeah,
right?
they
Which
had the
was
same idea.
that they still consider themselves to be under the tutelage of the Turtle Hermit. And in a sense, it makes sense because they've all been hermetic in their mode of being still. Even Goku, there's a symbol that the Turtle Hermit represents that of that mode of being. To be like Goku, to be like Yamcha, to be like Tien, to be like Krillin, all of them pretty much is to be the hermetic, right?
Yeah, they have to move well. All of that comes into it. It's all part of changes. It's all about that. It's why, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into that actually. Never mind. So then the boys notice that Goku no longer has his tail, and they ask,
Yep. Goku says that the tail was a real problem ever since he brought the moon back since it mysteriously disappeared. That the last person to remove Goku's tail was Gohan, right?
oh, yes, yes. He was the last one, and then we do see Gohan remove it, and then we see Kami. I mean, we don't actually even see Kami remove it. It's just implied that he does. And it's to say that Kami brings back the moon, and because of that, Kami understands the potential be considering Goku's strength at this point in his life. And so, like we've seen with Roshi destroying the moon to take away the connection with the dark side of the ancestral spirit, Kami does the same thing, but he removes the root of it, literally the root of the tail and the root of that malice. And
Yeah,
so,
I think it's really interesting that like the thing that happens in Goku losing his tail and his ability to what he's doing is without the tail, it allows him to move in society because this is a very big theme of what we're getting into now is like how does Goku represent himself to society itself and in a mimetic sense. It had to happen before for him and the spirit of Gohan did it for him before and now Kami does it, like there's a connection between he had to take a journey into the underworld before to lose it and to be able to come back with a representation of himself that could start instantiating itself out into the world so that he wasn't dangerous.
And then in heaven, he
Uh,
voluntarily gives it up.
and then in heaven, it's something that Kami just can do. It's not through a connection to to Gohan, but it's actually the source of Kami is the source that allows Gohan to be able to do that, right?
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like Kami also can do it for him because of
And this is the
that.
last time we see. We
Yeah.
even have a mention of Goku's tail. So Kami
Well, until Z.
removes till what? Oh, till
Well,
Z. Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Well, as a mention, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it is. It is the sacrifice that he gives up. Like it's kind of implied that he discusses it with Goku and gets Goku to accept for it to be so. And it I think it all now. And so that's the animalistic nature of Goku's tale is not conducive either to being the idea that he's trying to achieve, nor would it be conducive to the humility and the commonality he's trying to express in wandering in the world, right? Like as
A ton, but it's like a tail is excess. It is something that trails behind him. That's but more that he's more fully integrated and whole without it needing to be behind him, right? And that in a sense, Kami removing Goku's tail is to say that he removes the source for him to have excess that extends outside of himself and a propensity to turn into something unconscious.
or let's
You
say
know,
even you could characterize it as barbaric side of ancestry.
right? And the only thing that would remove his propensity to revert to that is to have that shadow fully integrated, and that Goku
Yes.
moves in such a way that he's integrated,
Not
um,
fully yet, but yes.
not entirely, but in such a way that it's unconscious to him. Let's say, right? That
Right.
have that to turn into a monster of equal proportions.
Right, but that will have to be contended with eventually. And I think that's also brought about here. Like it's implied and it always has been in the story that it's been more than just like a nod to Journey to the West, that there's been more to this than just Goku having a tail because Sun Wukong had a tail ever since the first
Right.
season. And so
That's
here
why
we
it's
see another
mentioned
example of it.
as a preface to them notice.
Speed it up. So then, yeah, Goku looks over. He notices Ma Junior. This era of Dragon Ball has some of the best art, I think. So we have like tall, thin Ma Junior here with these shoulder pads. So we've also been we of Yamcha, but this is more of like the militarization of Hermeticism.
Well, we see two things, right? Goku, his representation in this hierarchy is that he's wearing that, and he also has that as his shoulders, as his embodiment. So he's very rare enough that at the side of him, and this isn't necessarily just for that reason, but at the side of him, Krillin and Yamcha are like, oh, why does he look so serious? Tien recognizes what he is, but Krillin and Yamcha don't.
And Yamcha never did.
Yeah. That there is a level of malice and a level of instantiation that is beyond what either of them are conscious of. In the sense that Yamcha has this playful, like, I am playing a game by participating in this. And Krillin also
Understand the tiering of these. They think it's going to be another one. I did want to mention though that the turban you were talking about. So the reason I wanted to point out, so I think I said it like 3 or 4 times, is that Goku wearing the turban to get there, but not wearing it once he's there. Piccolo is still wearing the turban once he's there to the heavens. And so he's still being duplicitous in that way and trying to conceal his true self. And so I think that is it's like a sign of disrespect in a way. And so his first instantiation here is like a perversion of what we've seen Goku already do with in humility, and of the hermetic ritual. Like Piccolo has been on this path alone for the last 3 years, training on his own, right? And it's been about taking that process and turning it into violent and utilitarian means towards violence.
As far as like what makes it so militant.
Oh, just the where we have the shoulder pads with Yamcha where they're visible and over his robes, and we get more
Oh,
of
I
an
see what
intonation that it's play. Here we have it underneath. It's part of the robe, more or less. It's
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 wrapped
becoming
in the same way that the hair, like Goku's hair was.
yeah.
No, I get what you're getting at now. It's sort of like the process is sacred in a sense, but also it's not overtly a game. But in a sense, but like Tien, he is going to gamify it. You know, like in the last there was an issue with that, especially with and it's almost to
Right.
like convey that this is militant, but it's also like a game, and that
Mhm.
it's sport for him because it's been the entire time he's been alive.
Mhm. Right. And so we see that all part of his design here that differentiates him from Piccolo Senior.
Yeah,
And
Piccolo Senior never really hid any aspect of himself.
no, he was always who he was. And then Tien notices, like you were saying, and he thinks it is actually Piccolo.
Yeah, he's like, it's impossible.
It's like, it's King Piccolo. Oh no. And that's actually the end of the episode. Oh my
What a fucking
god. What an
episode! I
episode.
have to say,
A quick
oh my,
3-hour episode. Yep. So
it's
King Piccolo's double,
so.
the terrifying.
Here's the next step. Here's another paragraph. Here's another thing that we have to like we have to address before we can get to the next thing. Because that's the
Exactly.
thing with Dragon Ball, you can't skip anything.
It's
Like,
because it's all intelligently related to each other. And so even if it wasn't like consciously done, it's still intelligently like you can connect the dots is what I mean to say on that. Back to it, and you have to go ahead and start wrapping up. I have to, pause again.
is that these guys are all very conscious of their gi, and we got introduced to this episode with a certain consciousness of externalization. So we see Bulma arrive and she's got her earrings and she's got her lipstick, and then Goku arrives and he's got his head wrap. Relationship to the society around them. And so I think it's very intentional that we have a quick conversation at the end of this episode about what are we going to wear into the fight. Is Roshi providing us with this gi, or are we providing ourselves with this gi? And they're making a conscious decision for themselves how they're going to represent themselves going into this fight. They are, it's part of their character. One of aspects of how we're going to go into this and the final little stretch of this of Dragon Ball going into Dragon Ball Z is about that. It's about time. It's about representing yourself mimetically. It's about representing yourself as an idea. So they've chosen specifically, it's important for them, it's in his name, it's in the representation of the Hermetic way that they defeat their enemies. Even Goku finds it important that if he defeats Piccolo Jr., he does it in the name of Master Roshi. He does it wearing his symbol as an externalization of
And
himself.
properly. I lied. We're not done. Look at this ending. Have we seen this? We have not seen this.
I didn't watch it before. You're talking about the nostalgic. Man, that's nostalgic.
Oh, I know. Dragon Ball has such a way of conveying things that literally never happen in the show, but you feel like they did. Like this. This never happens, but it feels like it happened. Where Tien is driving all of them in this truck or whatever.
Hey, Yajirobe.
Where's Yaj? I see. I'm going ahead. I'm going ahead. But
I'm behind.
anyways, what I wanted to say too is like when you look at the outfits and what Bulma's wearing and how Bulma acts in this ending, it's a lot different than how she was when she was a girl, and it's showing the changes. And so we have even a new ending. So I lied. We weren't done with the episode, but I think we just about are now. Let me rewind it. I'm gonna go to a different.
Yeah, when I was going into this episode, I really was thinking heavily about the lyrics of the intro, actually, as it was leading in again. It's perfect. I mean, the lyrics to the intro, I'm not going to recite them here or anything, but just watch. They're relevant throughout the entire show as to what the theme of the show is. And they stay apt.
Oh, I gotta pause it here. Definitely. Oh man, we are gonna talk about that too. The best filler arc, literally the best filler arc.
Incredible. Incredible.
Anyways,
I can't wait to talk about that.
I know it's really good. Oh, look who's there! Her and Launch. Wait, who's that? Oh, that's Bluma. Never mind.
It's Bloomer.
And that's it. Okay, so I'll leave it here.
A romance.
Yeah, I think this episode is a great start to the season. It lays the foundation for everything going forward, including things that we'll see in Z. It's the biggest transformation we see in Goku's character. He makes huge headways in his maturity and his instantiation as the Logos spirit on Earth. In fact, he is the conduit. They no longer need to use the power pole to get to Kami's lookout because of Goku. Pay attention to
Goku arriving with the power pole on his back and the implications of essentially like he has already crossed that threshold and done it for everybody.
yes.
That's so big.
Is set up. This is how it's not speaking in like logical perfect. You can get to the lookout now, and there's a plot hole now in season 1 of Dragon Ball Z.
Even though they actually talk through it in the filler episodes.
People hate filler. Anyway, so that all happens with Goku, and then we see the boys, their transformation, how they've matured, how Goku and Krillin are still, how Krillin is still an externalization of Goku, preparing themselves to enter into the Tenkaichi Budokai, both with their accepting of the subconscious and like lower levels of consciousness with meditation, to achieve a higher plane of being, which is kind of on the right. How he has perverted the path and is trying to destroy what makes Goku Goku, and how the process in the world that has been set up in the universe by the benevolent universe has been able to propagate such a spirit of Goku to exist. He wants to destroy that, and we see that with the toy truck that they square up. So I think that's pretty much the summary. And absolute cinema. It was so good. Love it.
I mean, just as a tease, just think for a second. The first thing that happens in Dragon Ball Z and Piccolo's role in it. And we'll come back to that before too long.
Long, yeah. It's not too much. I think we only have like 15 episodes. The tournament itself's not that long.
We're about to come right back to it. But in this episode, what you just said about Piccolo and his role in perpetuating the process by which someone becomes like Goku, and what Piccolo has to do because of that. It's so good. It's so good. I can't wait. I can't wait to get to Z to talk about that.
Hell yeah. I'm also very pumped. All right, so before we kind of close out, Cality, so Goku also saved Tien from Piccolo Sr., so there's a score to settle, I see. Yeah, I was just mentioning that as an offhand remark. It wasn't anything.
Threat to the world, and now they become one, right? And so now Tien understands that it's an existential threat in a way that he didn't during the last
Well,
configuration.
and let's say he won one but failed the other, and one of them actually meant something, right?
Yeah, it's like Goku is the secret savior of the world, and he has to bear the mantle of being like the Hercule until he gets to represent himself again.
Right, right,
And then
right.
and so now it's all or nothing, and so he has a better intonation of it than say like Krillin or Yamcha does.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and he's the only one that's really encountered Piccolo Senior to begin with. So interesting that he says, "I have a score to settle," even though he won. Like it speaks to, like we were saying though, because I think we actually do agree with you, Vase, is that the technically winning, is not the same as winning in spirit, right? And so to actually win, you have to play the game properly. And if it's a technicality,
Let's
that's
I
not
want to
the same.
expand on that a little bit. And there was a separation before where Tien wins an idea battle, right? Because he's the top of the societal hierarchy by doing what he did. But Goku saved the world, and so Tien knows that he's a representation of what Goku did. He has to bear the weight of being the savior of the world without actually being the savior of the world. And so this is sort of settling that score, so to speak, that if he's going to bear the crown, if he's going to be a student of the Crane Hermit, it's not good enough just to bear the title like he was before he became under the Turtle Hermit tutelage, right? If he was still under the Crane Hermit, he'd be fine with a false title like he was all that time, and that's how we got introduced to him. But now it has to be a real title. So it's kind of ironic in the sense that he has to bear a false title, right?
It is, yeah. It's almost his shackle, right? He has to like win the next one to like prove that the first one was even legitimate. It's very much like Rocky 2. So how a whole point is like he's trying to fulfill the spirit that is telling him that he didn't actually, even a tyrannical one without citizens, sure, subjects, right? And that was
Yep.
something that Piccolo Senior was about, right? Being king, overthrowing the king, and all that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's if there's no one to instill fear into, then then terrorizing loses all meaning.
I think that was a weakness in Piccolo Senior that, you think about that long rules again.
Yeah,
So that
L
rule wasn't a
strategy.
hard fast rule. But I think that Junior, that Piccolo Junior represents an articulation of how that's fixed and how tyranny becomes sort of a permanent element of sort of becomes a status quo, like how would you say it, like the world itself becomes the way that the storm is represented and time runs out for people.
Mm.
Well, and what I mean is that there's not a world in which Piccolo Jr. does the same thing. He's not going to go, and now I'm the world leader and I'm with an iron fist and kind of change the entirety of how society functioned. Instead of being like a hard fast thing, he would be a soft tyranny. And that's more insidious and actually more dangerous because the way that Piccolo Senior is actually calls out to a hero. It creates the conditions for someone to
Yes,
stand up to
yes.
him.
And
But
Piccolo
the way that
Junior is trying to
Junior,
destroy. Mhm. Last one here, Chris Sombra says, "Don't think I ever pay attention to the outro." And we briefly mentioned that. Yeah, the outro is nostalgia. That Dragon Ball does that really well, and it also shows those things about Bulma that we don't really get to see in the episode proper per se. But I think that brings
yeah,
us to the very end.
yeah, I think we've finally worked our way through this episode. I knew it was going to be a big one. Oh my gosh,
It was a
it's just very dense.
loom time. It's one of the things to do tomorrow. But we hope you enjoyed what you heard. And if you did, please give us a subscribe and a like. We're very close to 100 subscribers. So we'd be thrilled if you could be one of those that helps us get to 100. I think that's pretty much it, though. So I've been your host on the left, Owl.
I've been your host on the right, Brock.
And we hope you guys have a good night.
I'll never forget the day he showed up. And so, he told us that he was Goku. So we started calling him Goku Black. I have not only mastered Goku's powers,